It's about 50 years since people in the bush here in Victoria got the power on, and the average life of a power pole is about 50 years. Consequently, we're just beginning to see the start of an epidemic of unserviceable power lines and poles all over the state. Since the Ash Wednesday fires, the electrical authorities and the Office of the Chief Electrical Inspector have laid down some rigid new guidelines and initiated a stringent and regular inspection program. For the farmer, many of whom may not have realised that they own the lines and poles on their property and are responsible for their maintenance, compliance with the new requirements is often an unwelcome extra burden, especially in tough times. PowerBeam, a thoroughly experienced, well-resourced company specialising in power delivery systems and service, has developed innovative new programs to help farmers meet the requirements of the OCEI and the power authorities. PowerBeam is working closely with the power companies and in consultation with the VFF to provide farmers with solutions and give them a range of options that comply with the guidelines and maximise safety while minimising the impact on their business. Alec Gillen just received notification in the mail that 3 of his 8 poles have been condemned, so the line will have to go underground. There's a considerable amount of repair work required, so PowerBeam are working to find a safe and economical solution.
Now, also with the other items on your defect notice, which are the cross arms and the sag in your wires, they can also be attended to, and that's a fairly simple operation. But with the way the regulations are currently put together, because you've got 3 out of 8 poles that are unserviceable, the regulations normally state that you would have to put your power underground. Yes. And you'd normally get 42 days notice to do that. Yep. We don't believe that's an adequate situation for a farmer such as yourself, and what we want to do is provide a plan of maintenance capability for yourself, so that you can prolong the life of your line. And in the event that your power may have to go underground, then part of what we're trying to do is put together a finance package so you can pay it off over a period of time. It's not going to be a lump sum thing.
I see.
And do you run milk vats or anything like that, cooling systems?
Over there.
Oh, they're over the road.
So that's right. The other part of the farm over there.
Okay. Alright, so I notice there's a transformer and you've already got underground power through to that
building.
Well,
yeah, that transformer cost me $4,000 odd and I don't own it, which is annoying. I had to pay for it before they'd put it in. I rang him up and he said he'd extend the time to 62 days, so that's the fella that wrote me this letter.
Yeah, that's Powerline, yes.
Yeah, and well, I'll have to have a solution by then, won't I?
Well, we can organise that for you to provide a solution, and part of what we do is we will actually work on your behalf or work with you in order to prevent them from cutting your power off, and also to bring your line up to standard.
I see. You're frightened of tradesmen nowadays when you're a farmer.
That's one of the reasons why we want to get a group of registered electrical contractors. We're not just going to have one in each area, we'll have 2 or 3. And part of that is also to help you with emergency services and minor repairs that might be required. We'll also have our own inspection crews so that they will be able to assess independently of the power authority how and what might be required for your power line.
I see.
So rather than have them come along and say, okay, well, you've got this and this wrong with your line, just put it underground, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
If we take a proactive stance and do the maintenance before they get there, then they can't do anything to touch it.
No. Yeah, they had a busy time around here. I forget how many said we're out around the place.
There'd be quite a few, judging by the way they've...
the post office, when I went to collect that, she said, popular thing, that.
Now, if we can come up with a similar sort of maintenance program whereby we would inspect prior to them coming around, it means that I don't see any reason why they'd ever ask you to put your system underground.
That'd be great.
The transformers on these only single phase. Oh, right, yeah.
Peter Sopakiotis is exploring his power options, including taking the lines underground, and appreciates the opportunity to talk it over with experts who are entirely independent.
The pole's going to have to be replaced, and I know the poles don't come cheap, sooner or later, so why not go underground right from the word go now while the house is being built? We don't have any eyesores around the house. Then all the wiring's underground, don't have to worry about a thing then. Just do it all in one hit and get it over and done with. So who's responsible for the poles?
You are.
With no fuse. So if I wanted to go underground, would I be able to force the power company to go underground up to the house or not?
No, they'll probably then put a fuse on the front and say it's your responsibility.
So it's your responsibility. Yeah, that'll be right. Right. Because I'm just surprised with the trimming of these trees. They said there'd be no charge to us.
Don't look a gift horse.
And we just keep getting these letters every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They done it yet?
Nobody comes around and does anything.
That's why.
But in the case where you're already putting a new meter box in, you're in a far better position than most.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say we're running it to the older property.
Yep.
What you'd have to do then is, with the older house, you'd have to put a new meter box in,
Mm-hmm.
a new fuse box, rewire the house,
Right.
and same thing with your shed, you have to rewire your shed.
Right.
So it's not just the cost of putting the line underground,
Yep.
it's all the additional costs which previously
On
haven't
top of
been
that.
attended to.
Yep.
We've got high voltage running out the front.
Ralph Anderson had a surprise visit from his power company when they started digging to put his line underground. An inspection of the pole by PowerBeam revealed that it could have been reinstated for minimal cost if Ralph had had time to consult PowerBeam before the work was commenced. Pat and Arthur Caldecutt found themselves in a difficult position, apparently without any alternatives. A PowerBeam maintenance program could buy them critical time before they're faced with the substantial cost of going underground.
The part that upset me was, he came here and he went and inspected the pole, and I went out and I said, well, what are you up to? What are you doing? He said, I'm inspecting the poles. And I said, well, it's no good of inspecting that because I said it's disconnected. So he said, oh, well, he said, I'll condemn that one. And I said, well, what's the position now? He said, you'll get a letter. And I said, how long? Oh, he said, you'll get a letter any time. Well, what was it? It wasn't a week went by.
Oh, it was pretty quick, yeah.
Yeah. When we get a registered mail, and I had to go over to Bales to collect it. And it was a shocking day. Anyhow, I went to collect this, and when I come home, I read it to the wife, and the next thing there's a bloke come here and he said, well, I've come here to measure up. I said, what for? He said, to measure up, he said, the line, he said. And I said to him, then listen, why don't you give people a go? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, here it is, right on holiday time. And I said, I'm not long out of hospital. I said, you don't give a bloke a chance, you into me. And I said, you're going to disconnect the power? I said, if we don't do what you want us to do. And that's the point, isn't it? Oh, well, he said, I'm sorry. He said, if you're upset, I said, well, I'm upset for the reason as the way that you've gone about it. I said, you send your bill out in ordinary mail, and I said, to make sure that I get it, you turn around and register it to give me this notification. And he said, yes. Well, I said, well, I don't think that's very fair of you. Anyhow, he said, oh, well, he said, you ring up this bloke. And I rang him up, and I thought he was unfair. And I got the attitude, well, I'm going to say, he said to me, oh, well, you've left to do something, you're going to do something, and this blah, blah, and he carried on. And I said, oh, well, he said, you go and get 3 or 4 quotes. Well, I said, well, how can I go and get quotes at this particular time when everybody's flat out? I went around to this bloke around here. He came here and he had a look and he said, oh, well, he said, 2,500, 3,000. He said, that's a rough quote. I said, well, make it a bit rougher if you can. But I mean, we've got to do something. I mean, I accept that, but it was just the way that they went about it. I don't think that they give us a fair go. And as I say, well, you know, it just catch at a bad time, but if we've got to do it, well, we've just got to do it. That's all there is about it. We can't, no good of squealing. I'm not a squealer. I try and help wherever I possibly can, but I just thought it was a bit tough the way they went around. I asked him for a bit more time, and he wasn't prepared to listen to me.
The line that they put the fuse on is the line that continues through to this house. So this house has 2 fuses on the line, and the line leading to the other house doesn't have a fuse at all.
There you are.
Does that? Yeah. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, that's right.
But
it should have one too, should it?
Oh, most certainly it should.
Yeah.
It's a safety aspect, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the condition of the pole and size of the pole that it is, we have a product that will keep the pole upright and will allow you 2 or 3 years extended life on that pole to enable you to get the other services repaired and run the underground service. And what that means is that you don't have to put your line underground immediately.
But in time we might. We will.
Correct.
I'll accept that.
All right.
Yes. Those that live the longest see the most, and we want to do that.
Arthur likes PowerBeam's approach.
Well, you know, he had a different attitude, spoke in a different manner, chap that you could understand, and as I say, well, we appreciated his help. We did, because I'm sure that he went away quite happy with us, and we was happy with him. That's better than growling, isn't it? Well,
Fix your little red
I've been about a long time, and as I say, I reckon I can really, usually assess somebody. They're straightforward. Anybody that starts mucking me about, well, I go the other way. That's only natural.
Thank you very much.
That's all right. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure meeting you.
Yes, a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah,
Yes.
good to have a talk and laugh.
It's always good to have.
After being forced to destroy every one of his 14,000 sheep due to ovine Johne's disease, John McTeer was dealt another crippling blow when he was suddenly faced with spending $20,000 within 42 days, or having his power disconnected.
In our case, we were approached by the power company to, after they told us that they'd inspected the line and the poles, and we were told that these poles would have to be replaced with underground, and to get a quote. When we got the quote, this is going to be somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000. I then told them that we would have to budget that into our business plan for the year, and that we wouldn't be able to do it just straight off in the next 2 or 3 weeks. They weren't too happy with that, and we were threatened with a power closure right when we were starting to shear. So then I approached the Victorian Farmers Federation, who put me in contact with you, Walter. I think now I realise that it is our line. Like before, I always thought, well, that's the power company, but we've never actually thought about owning the line, and that's been brought to our attention now. I was hoping we could replace the poles, was one option I'd thought of, but Eastern Energy wouldn't let us do that. They said, "No, well, it's a government act. You've got to put them under. It's all got to go underground." We didn't like the approach which was quite heavy-handed. You do what you're told, or no alternative.
Didn't give any options.
We'll shut you down. So, and after all these years of paying the bills on time, I thought it was fairly tough on us. But anyway, it's been overcome now. And we had 10,000 sheep this year, and they wanted us to renew all this and spend 20 grand, and it just wasn't on. And it was quite heavy-handed, sort of the approach.
The safety and maintenance plan is a predetermined, authorised schedule of maintenance capabilities which you previously haven't been made available to you. Now, we think that's probably the best option we can give you at this point in time. But second to that, if we do have to put your power underground, we can offer you a manner in paying it off. And that way, of course, you can spread that expense over a period of time. We're looking probably about 10 years. And if we can do that for you, I'm sure that'll be a great benefit.
Yeah, well, that's what we're looking at. I mean, I'm really happy with that sort of program. DNRE have got a protocol of how they should treat their vehicles. That wasn't happening. There was willy-nilly entry of power company vehicles, dropping poles off, inspecting poles without us knowing really what was going on the property. That has now all changed. Everything that happens here now has to be written down. We have to know who's coming here, what chemicals have been used, so this is just part of farming now.
Yeah, the chemical treatments we use, it's actually a boron fluoride treatment, so it doesn't affect your livestock, and it's actually approved by cattle care, so that what's going to happen is in use of that product on your property, that's not going to affect your livestock at all. It's not going to come out in your product. I think wool is your chief product here.
Yes, well, it was.
It was.
I reckon it's great that like the poles don't actually have to be replaced. That their lifespan will be, what did you say, 10, 20 years?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And they've already been here for, what do we work at, 40 years? So chopping down a lot of trees by keeping these in existence.
Yeah, we think the greenies might like us.
Greenies will love it. Yep.
Anyway, our insurance company came out and had a look at what we've got here, and they were quite happy to see them with your sleeving these poles. I thought they're quite happy with that, because the lines are actually covered anyway.
Do you perceive any other problems likely to arise out of this particular situation at the moment?
Well, the way you've approached it, I don't think there's any areas that are left undone. I think it's been a very quite a long process to get to this. We've discussed every point as we've gone along, and I'm very happy with it.
Oh, that's good.
PowerBeam is an Australian company that provides a complete range of power supply services to farmers. While the company works in close cooperation with the OCEI and the power authorities, PowerBeam is completely independent and works with farmers to find solutions to power problems, offer alternatives which would otherwise not be considered or available, and provides information and assistance. PowerBeam can help farmers avoid unpleasant surprises by initiating a regular inspection and preventative maintenance program to ensure that the power line meets the required standard. The PowerBeam management plan includes a thorough inspection and report every 3 years. This provides details on the condition of lines, poles, conductors, insulators, ties, cross arms, fuses, and condition of the termination service point. A list of any work required is provided with a cost estimate and prioritised within 24 hours when immediate action is required due to safety concerns, within 3 months before the next inspector's visit, or within 3 years before the next scheduled PowerBeam inspection. The PowerBeam maintenance plan provides an OCEI safety clearance every step of the way. PowerBeam Emergency provides a reliable, trustworthy, accredited service to carry out immediate works when a farmer's power system threatens safety or fate. PowerBeam Construction provides obligation-free advice and recommendations to farmers whose lines require new works, whether overhead or underground. PowerBeam specialist consultants will discuss and assess your precise requirements and design and recommend the most cost-effective solution to your power supply problem. Often, expenditure on a farmer's power system is an unexpected and unwelcome expense. PowerBeam Finance has developed some helpful solutions. Options include selling your poles and then leasing them back for a small annual fee, or a loan that can help spread the payments over a period of time to minimise its immediate impact on your business. PowerBeam is genuinely committed to providing valuable assistance and advice to farmers, and helping them to find the most cost-effective option to any power supply problems. PowerBeam can represent you and your interests in dealing with the OCEI and the power authorities, with whom the company has excellent working relationships. Don't expect PowerBeam to fight the OCEI or the power companies on your behalf. Instead, you can rely on PowerBeam to understand your needs and concerns and to use their specialised experience and expertise to find the most cost-effective way for you to meet the requirements and guidelines.